Today's unboxing video is the Tipton gun vise from Sportsman Gun Centre. This is going to be great for setting up and zeroing rifles, and also for things like bore sighting and general cleaning maintenance overall. So I'm going to slide this out of here and have a look and see what is inside. This looks all very interesting. It looks like we've got a certain amount of disassembly and reassembly to do. Let's see how logical it all looks straight away. Looks like we've got a rail down the middle, and I've put my knife down. Live unboxing videos, always fun, always functional. Nothing like learning on camera. There will of course be instructions, but the question is, how simple does it look from just opening it up and having a look? So first of all, we take all the parts out. We've got adjusting dials, wheels, nuts, bolts. Try not to drop anything on the floor. See what everything does. The great thing about a gun vise is, of course, you can set it up in multiple support positions so that it holds your gun solidly, and especially when you're cleaning a rifle or doing maintenance, you don't want the rifle itself moving. I particularly find that when I'm setting scopes up, because it helps if the rifle's locked solid in position, because your scope alignment, you know, looking through the rifle when you're setting it up for vertical reticle position, things like that. More bits here, so I'll just put this box down now. Could break to here's one we made earlier, but let's do it live on camera. So, Tipton gun vise, best gun vise, instructions for assembly and use. Looking at the general picture, it would appear I have put it down probably the correct way around, and essentially it's just a case of slotting everything together and nipping it all in position. So I'll stop talking and I'll do it, and you can watch me. Promised I won't speed this up in the final edit. We shall see. Kind of working off pictures here, I'm not really reading the instructions, but everything seems quite simple so far. There are basically two lengths of bolt and screw, so you just sort of slot those through each item. Just leave them loose for the moment. Last piece we've got here is that one. That seems to have two of these smaller slotted bolts go through it. That's going to go somewhere there, that's going to go somewhere down here. So let's just put these bits together now. It's got an aluminium rail all the way down the centre. It's an overall polymer moulding. We've got feet on it to give it solid position. Those are slightly rubberised so it'll falling position. Then we've got lots of pockets here to put various tools, accessories, and especially if you're dismantling things, you know, you might put springs or bolts and nuts in them, and little round holes like that, great for standing in the bottle of solvent or patches. So let's slot these together now. So that looked easy, that goes onto there like that. I think it's intending I put that one that way around, but I suppose it can be easily swapped either way. These are all nice big coated nuts and bolts. Big polymer T handles on them, big polymer turnbuckles on them, so you can nip them into place very simply. That gives this one elevation control, you can probably see there. That's actually very handy because when you're cleaning a rifle, you kind of want the barrel sloping down slightly to make sure solvent drains out of the muzzle end rather than onto the magazine itself. So the last bit is we put this back end together. So how does that go together? Ah dear. That's that way round, and then we have got two pieces here, two wings which look like they've got. That will go there. That one goes there. Yeah, that looks fairly straightforward as well. So we'll just put the bolts through these, which I think slot through the back like that. Yep. So while I talk to myself on camera doing this, hopefully that makes it fairly obvious that, you know, this isn't a complicated thing to put together. And of course, once it's together, it's just going to stay in your workshop, and it makes a great adjustable item. I'm going to hold that bolt from the back. That slots in there. Just need to undo these actually because they're just impinging on each other slightly. Right, that's assembled now. I'm going to slide these. They're all slotted like T-shaped feet on these bolts, so they just run in this extruded aluminium track. That one's in. That one's in. And then there are two handles now recessed here and here to allow me to nip that in place. So the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Now I've put a rifle down again in my unscripted unboxing video, which happens to be an almost colour matched CZ457 long range precision. And that will sit on there. So let's just see how quickly this will adjust. Draw those apart. That's going to need to just be moved back there slightly. And what this does is this gives me quite serious support, because I've got these locking collars on here, and as you lift these up it tensions the bolt. So if I nip those two pads onto the stock and I can just lift them, or drop them down rather, as I drop those down, that then nips the gun in position. But I've still got adjustment for elevation at the front there, if I want it. And then the centre support here, which moves backwards and forwards, that will nip in either there, or I could probably have put it in there if I'd have wanted to. And spinning it to the side allows it to be moved without obstructing the gun that's already in, because you won't want to have to keep taking the gun in and out. Depending on the exact shape of the rifle and how you want to support it, you can take this centre support out completely. Alternatively, you can also change the direction in which it stands so that it's a taller L shape to support the centre of the gun more solidly, especially if you're doing any kind of gunsmithing work. But correspondingly, that's also going to need probably the front end lifting all the way high and the back end would sit higher too, depending on how exactly the shape of the gun fits. All the contact points on the Tipton gun vise are rubber, so nothing's going to scratch wood or metal or plastic stocks, whether it be a shotgun or a rifle. These soft pads at the rear also impose force laterally and clamp the gun, but they don't mark the surface of the stock. So that's all in. How long's that taken? A few minutes. Everything's tightened up. That is quite solid indeed. And I think what I would probably do is, let's make an adjustment now, because to make this fit slightly better, I am going to undo those. Because of the shape of the butt hook on this rifle, let's see how versatile this is, because it's sitting up high on its butt hook at the minute, which we don't necessarily want. So what I'm probably going to do is drop this out behind. I'm just going to take the sling off it. I'm going to drop that down there, which means that these two lateral pads on the side can push onto the meat of the stock rather than the sides of the recoil pad. Drop that down at the front, slide it along a little bit, keep it out of the way of the bipod. So that is now ready to lock those down onto, and that is way more solid. So that just goes to show, immediately out of the box, you've seen that real time, assembling the pieces together, you're using it on this rifle, which is quite an unusual shape. It's quite an inconvenient shape, you could call it, for a gun rest, and it just shows how this Tipton vise will adjust and alter to fit everything. And with all these secondary support areas, it means you've got a really, really solid gun position, which is far more solid than the bench it's actually sitting on here. So anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed that little introduction to the Tipton gun vise.